Hey everyone, this is Adam here, and this is part 3 of our mini-series on how to read the Bible. Today I want to invite you and encourage you to make questions your friends. I want to invite you to learn how to ask questions of the Bible. You see, I've had a number of conversations with people about asking questions of the Bible, and as I've spoken with them about that, I can see that there's an anxiety or a reticence to ask questions of the Bible. And I think it's because by asking questions you may discover some things that you're not yet prepared for, and that can be unsettling for us. However, to truly know God is to allow His Word to speak regardless of the consequences. And so I really want to encourage you to let questions become your friends. If you learn how to ask questions on a daily basis of the Bible, you will find that your knowledge of the Bible and through that your knowledge of God will grow. And so let me give you a number of questions which I think would be really helpful for you to ask every time you open the Bible. The first question is this: what does this passage teach me about God? You see, one of the primary focuses of the Bible is to help us to understand who God is. And so what does this passage that I'm reading say about who God is? And again, can I encourage you, sometimes the answers will be unsettling. I remember the first time I read the story of the massacre at Ai, which you can find in the Old Testament. This passage is a troubling passage, and it asks some really big questions about the nature of God. But to not ask those questions means that the view that we're holding on God is not the view of the Bible. So I want to encourage you, ask the question, what does this particular passage reveal about who our God is? The second question that I want to encourage you to ask is this: what does this passage reveal about sin in general and my sin particularly? You see, part of the process of reading the Bible is to allow the Bible to shape our understanding of the world we're in, and part of the world that we're in is the effects of sin out there and also in our hearts. And so part of this journey is when we read the stories in the Bible and we read the Bible passages, is there something inside of me that needs to change? Are there some sin attitudes in me that need to change and be replaced with more Christ-like attitudes? So the second question is, what does this passage tell us about sin in general, but also sin particularly that might be going on in my heart? The third question is, how am I being challenged to live differently as a result of reading this passage? Bible reading is not about filling our minds with more and more information. Bible reading is about learning how to become more and more like Jesus. And so every time we open the Bible, one of the questions that we need to be asking ourselves is, as a result of what I've read, what needs to change in me? So I want to encourage you to ask that question. When you've read a passage, don't just be content with knowing some more things. Your life needs to change. And so what is that one or two things that needs to change as a result of reading this passage? The fourth question that I'd love you to ask about every passage, both Old Testament and New Testament, is, how is my heart being stirred to worship Jesus as a result of this passage? You see, theology is meant to lead to worship. Theology is about us understanding who God is in His world, and as a result of that greater knowledge of who God is and the world that we're part of, our hearts need to be stirred to worship. And so reading this particular passage, how is my heart being stirred to worship? Now, as I mentioned last week, I want to encourage you, as you ask these questions on a daily basis, as you're working your way through books of the Bible, I want to encourage you to get into the practice of journaling your answers to these questions. Because what I found as I've done this over many years is that by journaling, the process of journaling helps you to remember, it helps you to learn, it helps you to kind of crystallize and condense down what you've been thinking about, and it helps you to grow in your knowledge of God and His ways in this world. So I really want to encourage you, if you haven't already, go out or buy a notebook and start the process of journaling your answers to those 4 questions. What's the big idea from today? The big idea from today is make questions your friends when it comes to reading the Bible.